Okay, thank you everybody for coming. I'm just going to do a short presentation about the Cooks River. I'm a member of the Cooks River Valley organisation, the Cooks River Valley Association, and I live quite near the Cooks River, and every day I walk my dog there and I look at the river and I think about what we could possibly do to make the river beautiful again. And this particular picture here, it's hanging in the Art Gallery of New South Wales, along with the streetings and everything like that in the Australian Room. And I only recently realised that it's actually a painting of Walleye Creek, which is just down the road a couple of kilometres from here, and it's part of the Cooks River. It was painted in 1894, and every time I look at that painting I think, my goodness, it must have been so beautiful then, and wouldn't it be nice if we could make the river look like that again? Okay, so people used to swim in the Cooks River, so why can't they swim now? This particular photograph here is taken from 1932, and it shows the Steel River, the Steel Park River Patrol, which was a swimming group down at Steel Park, Marrickville, and you can see them there with their swimming costumes on. They had lifeguards and a little shed and all sorts of things. So if they could swim in the river then, why can't we swim in the river now? This photograph was taken just a few weeks ago, a little bit down the road from where the Steel Park clubhouse was in 1932. So would you like to swim here? Years of neglect and huge amounts of litter, which come gushing out of the stormwater drains, pour into the river and are creating a river of rubbish. So what can we do to fix this problem? Well, we can join the cleanups. The Cooks River Valley Association organised a cleanup next to the Marrickville Golf Course, Clean Up Australia Day 2017, which was actually last week. And 49 volunteers turned up in the pouring rain. They collected 110 sacks of rubbish, as well as larger items like shopping trolleys. That was actually twice as much as the year before, because there had been recent heavy rains which had flushed all the rubbish down into the river and into the main roads. The non-swimming swimming carnival. We decided to have a swimming carnival on the banks of the Cooks River without the actual swimming. And in order to draw attention to the problem of the rubbish on the river, this is what we did. We all turned up in our swimmers with our sun hats and floats and all that sort of thing. And it was a great fun day. The media came and it was on television and on the local news and newspapers and things like that. And it was just something to help draw attention to this problem of the river. We'd like to be able to swim in the river, but we can't, and just to focus some media attention on that problem. So how can we stop all this plastic cans and bottles and rubbish from going into the river in the first place? Well, if there was a 10-cent refund on bottles and cans, many of them wouldn't end up in the river in the first place. A national rally for a container deposit scheme was actually started just down here at Tennant Parade on the banks of the Cooks River in May 2014 with Ian Kiernan, who helped to organise the campaign. He's the one who started Clean Up Australia Day. That's Ian there. I'm not in that photo because I was taking the photo. And a container deposit scheme is going to be launched this year in December. It has been put off and put off and put off, but it is actually going to come in December, which is actually quite a good thing because it gives them the time to work out all the nuts and bolts and get the system right. But we have been told that it is really, really going to happen. So that's very, very good news. That will really make a huge difference in stopping so many bottles and cans and rubbish from gushing not just into our river, but waterways and public spaces all over the country. And this particular news item here is from the front page of the Canterbury Bankstown Torch on the 21st of May 2014 when we launched that national campaign for a container deposit scheme. So hopefully Victoria and the other states will come on board as well. One of the questions we get asked a lot is the water clean? So there's a lot of rubbish that we can see, but we often don't know about what we can't see. So volunteers regularly test the water with Streamwatch, which used to be run by Sydney Water, but it's now an adjunct of the Australian Museum. The results are monitored regularly and show the water quality is good, but not yet safe for swimming. So I have done that myself as well, and we have quite high levels of dissolved oxygen and things like that. The water has a lot of fish. It is quite healthy, but we find that after heavy rain, it is pretty bad. They're quite high E. coli levels and very much higher than suitable for human contact. So that is still an ongoing problem. But we always need more volunteers for this type of testing. And after a little bit of initial training, it just involves 1 or 2 hours a month. So for more information, you can go to the Australian Museum website. But what more can be done? Periodic cleanups and even a 10-cent refund on bottles and cans may not be enough to keep the river clean. So campaigns by the CRBA prompted Canterbury Council in conjunction with Sydney Water to install a litter boom on the banks of the Cooks River. It's actually just down at the next bridge from here. That went in, I think, about August 2014, and it is emptied every week. It's made a really monumental difference. I think every time they empty it, they get something like 2 cubic tonnes. It's just phenomenal. And the boom is also a very nice resting place for pelicans, cormorants and other birds. They often use it as a fishing platform. And actually just the other day, a new boom was installed by Sydney Water up at 5th Avenue, Canterbury, as a part of the multi-pronged strategy by Sydney Water to clean up the Cooks River. So that's very good news. Creation of a bird sanctuary at Boat Harbour. This tiny little peninsula of land just up at Boat Harbour, just up from here in Earlwood, has always been a popular resting spot for pelicans, migratory birds, and they were constantly being chased off by local dogs and pushed out of the way by fishermen and tangled up in fishing line and all sorts of things like that. So we campaigned to the council and said, why can't we just get a little fence along here to make a safe little place for these birds? And finally the council agreed and put the fence up, and it's wonderful. Now the pelicans and the migratory birds and all sorts of other creatures can sit there and in peace and not be chased away. This is local volunteers saving a pelican. Despite health and safety warnings not to eat fish coming from the Cooks River just because of high contamination levels, etc., it doesn't really make much difference. It's still, recreational fishing is still a very popular pastime along the river, from the bridges and along the banks and so on. But a very nasty side effect of this is that fishermen often don't realise the repercussions of their actions, and they leave discarded fishing line, hooks, sinkers, etc. on the banks of the river, tangled up in the mangroves, and worse still, actually in the water itself, which is really incredibly hazardous to wildlife. This particular pelican here, it had one wing tangled up in fishing line, and a number of us had been keeping an eye on it for some time, and we could see that every time it was flying it had fishing line trailing from it, but we couldn't catch it because they're incredibly strong, fast creatures, and it could still fly, and it could still swim very fast. But it got to the point where its left wing was so tangled up that it couldn't move, it couldn't fly. So this wise fellow, Paul, I rang him and he came down with Barney, who just lives up the road, and they went out on their boat and they managed to rescue the pelican, bring it back to shore, cut all the fishing line off its wing. It had a hook embedded in its side as well, and they took it to Taronga Zoo where it was recovered fully, and after about a week they brought it back and released it back onto the Cooks River. So that's another ongoing campaign to try and raise awareness of this issue. Celebrating the river. So community involvement and celebrations on the river help to engender a personal connection with the river and to also turn the community into committed to protecting the river and the wildlife. So one of the things that we've done is these photos here show Earth Hour in 2016 last year, which was held at Fatima Island, just up near the Princess Highway. And workshops were held where children made little paper boats and then decorated them, dipped them in hot candle wax, and then put little candles in them and launched them out on the river. So you can see this photograph here has got hundreds of little candle boats floating out on the river, and the volunteers from the River Canoe Club came along. You might be able to just see them in the corner there, and they monitored the little boats and collected them all to prevent any lasting rubbish in the river. So how can I make a difference? The best way to get involved is to come along to one of our 5 weeding bee sites, our native gardens along the river. These are run by volunteers, and the plants and the mulch and the tools are provided by council. You can check the Facebook page or the website for details. All those schedules are up there. And bring along the family or just yourself, an hour or 2 a month, or whenever you can manage, or just pop by for a cup of tea and a chat. It's a great way to connect to your local area and meet new friends. Okay, so that's the end of my presentation. I'm just wondering if anybody has any comments or questions.
I've got a question.
Yes?
So I know that the Cooks River runs along in different council areas.
Yes, yes.
So do you have problems with handling, because the river is managed by different councils, so is that an issue?
It is an issue. There is an organisation called the Cooks River Alliance, and they have been formed specifically to act as an intermediary between all the councils that deal with the river, and that's not a volunteer thing, that's a funded organisation. There are 9 councils that have jurisdiction over the river, so the Cooks River Alliance attempt to work with all of those councils and be one particular body together. There was a bit of worry about whether their funding would be continued. It has been. Yes, that's their role. So hopefully that will keep going. Okay. And anyone else have any comments?
When do they think that do they have an idea in the future when the river might actually be swimmable? Or? Well,
I don't know. We had a sort of aspirational goal of Cooks River Swim by 2020. It's sort of getting a bit closer to 2020 now. Yes. So I don't think we will be swimming in the river by 2020. The problem is that it's not a closed system. It's tidal, and Sydney Water are making very, very strenuous efforts now to clean up the stormwater that goes into the river and to build a lot of bioretention pits or rain gardens that will trap a lot of that rubbish and clean the water before it goes into the river. But we have nominated Kendrick Park at Fatima Island as a potential swimming site. It's fairly close to the sea, and Beach Watch came along and did some monitoring there, and they also endorsed it as a potential swimming site. So that particular site could possibly be swimmable in a few years if it's well managed.
So Anne, is the water quality improving over time? And you mentioned after heavy rain, the E. coli levels. I've got an idea that's from sewage overflow? Or
Yes. Sydney Water are actually allowed to release the excess liquid sewage, into the stormwater, basically to prevent the pipes from bursting. So anything more than a 10mm rain event, which is nearly every time it rains, they have a legal licence to put effluent into the river. So we find when it's been dry for a couple of weeks and we do the E. coli test, there are no colonies of E. coli, and then after heavy rain, I've sometimes had results of maybe 60 to 100 times more than the recommended level for human contact. So it's a bit disturbing.
But that's the same though even in the beach, because don't they say you shouldn't be swimming sort of at the beach after heavy?
I don't think that. I think the sewage outlets are deep sea, and they're a lot further off. So they're not. They used to be sort of right where you were swimming, but now they've got the deep sea outlets, and so it's still there, but it's just not where you're swimming. So yeah.
Is there any hope in sight in relation?
Well, I think so. Sydney Water they're spending $10 million on testing the illegal connections of the stormwater up at the Wallay Creek area, because they say that's one of the major problems where a lot of old plumbing is people have their sewer going straight into the stormwater, and it's very hard to detect. So they're doing testing to try and locate those illegal sources and fix them up, so that it's not, putting such a lot of pressure on the system. And I think they are doing repairs and things like that. But we've got all these new flats coming in and all these new people, and so I don't know how the old crumbling pipes are really going to cope anymore with that. But we just hope that it doesn't go bursting through the pop tops.
And is that that construction that's going on down near Boat Harbour part of that? Is that a sort of pipe?
Yes, that's Sydney Water.
What's that about?
Yes, they're fixing up the infrastructure down there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're doing a pretty intensive work down there, so that's good.
Fantastic presentation. Thank you very much.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. All right.